What's going on YouTube? JT is reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of After the Movie. I just got done watching Disenchanted, the long-awaited sequel to the movie Enchanted, which came out all the way back in, what was it, 2007? 2006, 2007? It's been like 15 years since the last movie, and when I saw that, I'm like, wow, has it really been that long? I feel like I just saw that movie when it kind of came out. Because when Enchanted came out, it was kind of this big deal, and there's always talks about doing a second movie, and time passed, interest in it kind of faltered a bit, and now we're at the long-awaited sequel, which is being released straight to Disney Plus, which generally means the quality is not going to be as good if it were released in theaters, which is usually kind of the case with Disney Plus sequels. Although I think I'm one of the few people who enjoyed Hocus Pocus 2, but that movie was a little bit more, a lot more enjoyable than the movie I just sat down and watched. So Disenchanted, I guess overall consensus, I didn't really care for it. In fact, this felt like a chore to sit through. This thing was 2 hours long and it felt like three. One of my biggest issues with it too, it just felt empty. It felt kind of hollow. It's set over a decade after the events of the previous movie. Giselle is living with or Patrick Dempsey and their his daughter, which is now her daughter, and then they had a baby too. They move out of New York City, they move into suburbia basically, and they're kind of at that point where it's like, what do we even do with ourselves anymore? It's kind of an interesting idea, which has been touched on in other movies too. What do you do after happily ever after? What do you do after you've gone on this great adventure and you're kind of just living a bit of a stagnant life? And they're kind of looking for something more exciting. Edward, aka James Marsden from the first movie, and his wife, who he hooked up with at the end of that thing, come and visit them, and they give their goddaughter, which is Giselle and Patrick Dempsey's baby, magic wand, and Giselle basically takes that wand and wishes for her life to become like a fairy tale, and so it transformed this kind of more suburban area into kind of like Andalasia, and Giselle is also turning into the evil stepmother for her daughter or stepdaughter, whatever you want to call it, and she's gradually becoming evil, and then Maya Rudolph's in there as this other kind of villain, and Patrick Dempsey is basically taking on the James Marsden type role in this film. And I'm sitting there wondering, like, well, just bring James Marsden more into this movie. He is by far the best part of it, and he's only in like 3 scenes, which is a huge disappointment because he was my favorite part of the first movie by far. Like his performance and just the way he delivered all his lines was genuinely really funny. And Amy Adams is still a good actress, but the whole fish out of water thing, it feels kind of out of place now that she's been living here for what 15 years at this point. I feel like she'd kind of catch up on things. She's been here for quite a while, or a decade, or whatever the timeline of this thing is at. I think they said it like 10 years later, but it's been 15 years since the last movie. But they've been spending all this time here. I feel like she kind of pick up on things more, and the fish out of water elements wouldn't quite work so well. But Giselle still maintains that kind of naive sense with her. Villain's really weak. Maya Rudolph is was she ever really good in things? Definitely not in this, and a lot of the things I've seen her in. Maybe in something she was good, but definitely not in this movie. She was a chore to sit through. She didn't have great on-screen presence. Even Amy Adams, like when she's going to evil Giselle mode, kind of where it feels like somebody who's playing a part, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel all natural. Maybe that's kind of what she was going with in terms of this, because Amy Adams is good as Giselle, but when she has to do the evil stepmother thing, it felt really off. It felt like somebody playing an evil stepmother. Maybe that's kind of the idea they were going for, but I never genuinely felt like she was turning into this character. Maybe that's just Giselle's pleasantry shining through, and that's the take that they wanted to go with. But I never really felt anything. Never felt any of the stakes. This world felt empty. It didn't feel as fresh or interesting as the first movie did. And even then, the first movie I don't really love, but the songs even then were still catchy, and there's some genuinely funny moments, mostly with James Marsden and Amy Adams, how they were fitting into New York City. Now it just feels like all the luster and magic of that is kind of gone. Patrick Dempsey, even in the first movie, I thought he was kind of all the charisma and who was kind of taken away. He was very kind of bland on screen in the first film, and here he's basically playing the James Marsden type character, but it feels like somebody is playing that character. They don't actually feel like he becomes that swashbuckling hero, whereas Marsden just perfectly did that. And the fact that they only had him in 3 scenes, I think, is an absolute crime. Even when the characters of Andalasia kind of come back into the new world that they're at, he decides, oh, somebody's got to stay behind. I'm like, why? Why not have more of Edward? He's the best part of the movie, and he's barely in it. When he was on screen, I genuinely laughed. And it's a shame that he's only in so few scenes because his charisma would have helped carry this movie a lot better, like he did the first film. And even like Amy Adams, who's good in the first movie, and here it just the evil stepmother version of herself just feels kind of off-putting. They also are doing the thing with the daughter becoming a teenager and doesn't want anything to do with magic and fairy tales and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm sorry, you guys dealt with dragons and all that in the first film. Did that really have leave an impact and things? I guess this movie went under some various reshoots, I guess, but who even knows how much was changed in this thing? And I don't think it really matters so much because I think this movie was just kind of a dud. It's been the first time in a while I've sat through a movie. I'm like, oh, that was kind of a chore. I don't despise it or think it's like the worst thing in existence. I just sat through it and I just found myself pretty bored, and this felt like a chore. It was just a chore to sit through. Outside of a few bits here and there, like I said, James Marsden is very good, but he was very underutilized this time around. The songs are very forgettable. The magic just is kind of gone. I did appreciate seeing some 2D animation again, but those sequences are so short and in between that they almost could have been cut from the movie because they only spend like 5 minutes in Andalasia in this thing, and it didn't do enough for me. I can see why this thing went straight to Disney Plus and not to theaters. You can tell there's not as much belief in this one as there was in the first movie. But take it for what it's worth. Maybe some kids will like it. I didn't particularly care for it. I felt like it was a dud, and I just think they should have probably not even made this movie at this point. So either that or make a better movie. So there you go. Those are quick thoughts on Disenchanted. I got a couple more after the movie's going to try and get out this weekend, and some other videos as well. But so look forward to those. I was sorry to disappoint. If anybody was looking forward to this, I didn't think it was very good. There really isn't much in terms of redeeming qualities to this movie. I think the first movie is a lot better. And if you have to watch one, watch the first movie. There's a lot more humor. The songs are more catchy. Amy Adams, that was my first introduction to her, believe it or not, and I thought she was great in it. But here, just I don't know. It didn't work for me. So there you go. Those are my quick thoughts on Disenchanted. Didn't really care for it. I don't have any interest in revisiting it again. It's not so bad it's good. It's just kind of a boring, kind of bad bleh type movie. Felt like a chore to sit through. So that's all I have to say about that one. I don't recommend it. So there you go. If you have any thoughts on it, post your comments down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, hit the bell for notifications, all that other fun stuff. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace.